The year is 1888. A relentless sun bakes the plains of Wyoming, turning the small town of Redemption into a furnace of dust and despair. It's a town built on grit and forgotten dreams, its wooden facades bleached by the unforgiving light. A lone figure rides in, a silhouette against the blinding sky. He's a man built for hard living, broad-shouldered and lean, his face weathered by wind and worry. This is Silas Grant, a cowboy whose once bright future has been swallowed by a land claim dispute and a desperate debt. His ranch, a piece of inherited paradise, is on the verge of being seized by a ruthless land speculator named Alistair Finch. Silas has one last, desperate hope, a letter from an old acquaintance in Redemption, promising a deal that could save everything. He dismounts in front of the town saloon, a place named The Last Chance. The air inside is thick, with the scent of cheap whiskey, sweat, and a kind of hopelessness that seeps into the walls. Silas finds the man he's looking for, a grizzled old-timer named Jed, hunched over a card table. Jed's eyes, clouded with alcohol, still hold a flicker of cunning. "Silas Grant," Jed slurs, "heard you were in a bind." Silas gets straight to the point. "I need the money, Jed, all of it, for a week, maybe 2. Jed chuckles, a dry, rattling sound. "Money ain't free, cowboy. The price for what you need ain't something you'll find in a gold pouch." He gestures with his chin toward the back of the saloon, toward a curtained-off section. "My little business has grown. It's not just cards and whiskey anymore. I've got talent. Talent for sale." Silas's gut twists. He knows what Jed is talking about. It's the kind of business that preys on the broken and the lost. He's a man of honor, raised to respect women, but desperation is a powerful demon. His ranch, his father's legacy, is a breath away from being lost forever. "How much?" he asks, his voice low and strained. Jed names a figure that makes Silas's stomach clench. It's a sum that will cripple him, but it's enough to pay off Finch. "And for that," Jed says, a cruel smile on his lips, "you get your pick. For a full week. You own her time. No questions, no interruptions." Silas closes his eyes, a silent prayer for forgiveness. He thinks of the dusty land, the endless sky, the dream of a family that might one day live there. He nods once. "I'll take it." Jed's grin widens. She's new, just arrived, the quiet one, a real looker too, headed for a better life, but a bad hand of cards and a crooked promise brought her here instead. Silas follows Jed to the back. When the curtain is pulled aside, he sees her. She's not what he expected. She isn't draped in gaudy silks or painted with cheap rouge. Instead, she's dressed in a simple, faded blue dress. Her hair is a cascade of auburn, and her eyes, when they meet his, are not empty or hardened. They are a deep, startling green, filled with a raw, unshakable sadness. She looks like a caged bird, not a possession. Her name, Jed says, is Eleanor Vance. The first few hours are a dance of uncomfortable silence. Silas has paid for her presence, but he doesn't know what to do with it. He leads her to a small rented room above the saloon, a meager space with a single bed and a wash basin. He keeps his distance, feeling a profound shame. He's not the man his father raised him to be. Eleanor sits on the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She doesn't speak. Her stillness is more unnerving than any plea or accusation. Silas watches her from across the room, his mind racing. He needs to get the money to Finch. He needs to ride back to his ranch to fight for his home. He has no time for this. "Look," he says, his voice gruff, I'm not here for what you think. I need a place to stay and a reason to be here without questions. This is for show. I'll stay on the floor. You'll be safe." Eleanor's head snaps up, her green eyes wide with a mix of shock and suspicion. You paid all that money for nothing," she whispers, her voice a soft, melodic surprise. "It's not nothing," Silas says, gesturing vaguely. I needed to make a deal, to look like a man with resources. Jed's not the kind of man you can just borrow from. He sits on the other side of the room, on a wooden chair, and begins to polish his boots, the rhythmic sound a balm to his frazzled nerves. I need you to act the part. In town, at the saloon. You're with me. You're my woman. No one else touches you. Eleanor stares at him, her expression a puzzle. She expected a brutal, lecherous man. Instead, she found a quiet, troubled one who seems as lost as she is. Why? She asks, the single word hanging in the air. Silas sighs, running a hand through his hair. I'm in a fight for my ranch. A man named Finch is trying to take it. He's got influence, and he's not afraid to use it. The money I paid, it's a loan against my land. Jed gave me a week to ride home and sort things out, but I had to make it look like a fair transaction. He doesn't go into the deeper, darker details, the true cost of his deal with Jed. The shame is too great. A flicker of something, sympathy perhaps, or a shared understanding of being trapped, crosses Eleanor's face. And after the week? She asks softly. I leave. You'll be free of this. He can't bring himself to say she'll be free of him, because that implies a bond that doesn't exist. Not yet. For the first time since she arrived in Redemption, Eleanor feels a small spark of hope. She sees not a monster but a man drowning, just like her. My name is Eleanor, she says, her voice gaining a little more strength. Eleanor Vance. Silas Grant, he replies, a faint smile touching his lips. It's good to meet you, Eleanor. The next day, Silas takes Eleanor to the general store. He buys her a new, modest dress, a simple calico, a far cry from the opulent clothing Jed would have put her in. He also buys her a pair of sturdy leather boots. Eleanor stares at them, her eyes filling with a mixture of confusion and gratitude. Why? She asks again, the word becoming a recurring theme between them. You can't walk around in those flimsy shoes, he says, trying to sound gruff but failing. They'll fall apart in a day. Besides, we need to make it look real. Finch has eyes everywhere. People talk. Their charade begins in earnest. They walk through the dusty streets of Redemption, a strange pair. The rugged, silent cowboy and the quiet, elegant woman. Their hands don't touch, but they walk close enough to signal a connection. The townspeople watch, their whispers following them like shadows. Jed, seeing his new product on the arm of the cowboy who paid for her, grins knowingly from the saloon porch. The charade is working. Over the next few days, their forced proximity begins to chip away at their defenses. Silas finds himself talking to her, not about his business, but about his ranch, his late father, the love he has for the wide open spaces. He talks about the way the light hits the distant mountains at sunset and the smell of sagebrush after a rain. He finds himself drawn to her quiet strength, the way she listens intently, her green eyes never leaving his face. Eleanor, in turn, begins to open up. She tells him she was a schoolteacher in a small town in Missouri. She was promised a teaching position in California, a fresh start after a family tragedy left her with nothing. The man who promised it, a charming grifter, took all her savings and left her stranded in Redemption. The very night he left, Jed's men found her, desperate and alone. She was given a choice, work for him or starve. She chose what she thought was the only way to survive. Their shared stories create a fragile but real connection. The lie they are living for the town becomes a truth for them, a sanctuary in a world of deceit. Silas begins to see her not as a part of a transaction, but as a person, a woman of depth and resilience. He feels a growing protective instinct toward her, an emotion he can't explain. One evening, as they sit in the quiet of their room, a tense silence falls. Silas looks at her, her face illuminated by the single oil lamp. He sees the sadness, the pain, and also the unyielding spirit. The shame of his bargain rises in his throat. "Eleanor," he begins, his voice thick with emotion, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did, what I made you do." She shakes her head, a small, sad smile on her face. "You saved me, Silas. For a week at least. You gave me a small piece of my life back. For that, I'm not a captive. I'm your partner." Word of Silas's return and his new companion reaches Alistair Finch. Finch is a man of polished cruelty, dressed in fine city clothes that seem out of place in Redemption. He owns the bank and half the businesses in town, and his influence is as wide as the plains. He's a man who takes what he wants, and he wants Silas's ranch. Finch rides out to the saloon, his face a mask of polite disdain. He finds Silas and Eleanor sharing a meal in the dining hall, a public display of their fabricated relationship. "Silas Grant," Finch says, his voice a smooth, venomous purr. "I heard you found a little comfort. It's a shame you're squandering what little money you have left on such frivolous things. Your time is running out. That debt is coming due. You know the price." Silas stands, his hand instinctively going to his hip where his revolver rests. Eleanor's hand rests lightly on his arm, a quiet anchor. "My business is my own, Finch," Silas says, his voice a low rumble of warning. "And my debt will be paid." Finch's eyes slide from Silas to Eleanor, a predatory glint in them. "And who is this?" he asks, his gaze lingering on her. "A little bird you caught from the city? She seems too good for a dirty rancher like you." Eleanor's grip on Silas's arm tightens. She meets Finch's gaze head-on, her eyes cool and unwavering. "My name is Eleanor," she says, her voice steady, "and I am with Silas." Finch laughs, a chilling sound. "We'll see about that," he says, his gaze promising trouble. He turns and walks out, but his presence lingers like a bad smell. The encounter leaves Silas shaken. He realizes the true danger they are in. Finch isn't just after his land. He's a man who enjoys crushing people, and now he's set his sights on Eleanor. Eleanor's quiet presence begins to change Silas. He finds himself wanting to be a better man, a man worthy of her trust. He spends his days not just preparing for the showdown with Finch, but also looking for a way to secure Eleanor's future. He realizes he can't just leave her when the week is up, not with Jed and Finch both knowing she's alone and vulnerable. He finds a lead on a hidden spring on his land, a legendary water source his father spoke of. If he can prove the spring exists, it would make his ranch invaluable and give him the leverage he needs to fight Finch in court. It's a long shot, but it's their only hope. He decides to ride out to his ranch to find it. "I have to go," he tells Eleanor. "I can't leave you here. Finch is watching." "I'll come with you," she says immediately. Silas hesitates. It's dangerous. The ranch is remote and Finch's men could be waiting. "I'm not afraid," she says, her voice firm. "I trust you, Silas, and I'm not staying here. Not in this place." He sees the resolve in her eyes and knows she won't be swayed. He agrees, and they make a plan to leave at dawn. That night, as the moonlight spills into their small room, Silas sits on the floor near the bed. He feels an ache in his chest he hasn't felt in a long time. It's not just fear for his land, but a fear for her. He's paid a terrible price for her, and in a way he never expected, she's become something he can't bear to lose. "Eleanor," he says softly, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what will happen, but I promise you, I'll protect you, no matter what." She looks at him, her eyes shining in the dim light. "I know, Silas," she says, and for the first time, her face is free of sadness. "I know." The ride to the ranch is a grueling journey. The landscape is vast and unforgiving, a sea of brown and gold. Silas and Eleanor ride side by side, their conversation minimal, their connection spoken in the easy rhythm of their horses' hooves and the shared glances they exchange. They camp under the vast, star-filled sky. The campfire crackles, a small beacon in the immense darkness. Eleanor stares up at the stars, a sense of wonder in her eyes. "I've never seen so many," she whispers. "In the city, the light, it hides them." Silas nods. "The sky is a different kind of canvas out here. It's where I feel most at home. It's a promise." Eleanor wraps her arms around her knees, a wistful smile on her face. "You have a beautiful dream, Silas. To build a life here, to have a home." Silas looks at her, the firelight dancing in her hair. "It's not just my dream anymore," he says, the words a quiet confession. I never thought I'd share it with anyone." He reaches out and takes her hand, his calloused palm warm against her smaller one. She doesn't pull away. It's a small touch, but it's a world away from the transaction that brought them together. It's a promise of something more. The lie they told is now the truth they are living. They arrive at Silas's ranch, a place of stunning, desolate beauty. The ranch house is a modest, weathered structure, but to Silas it's a palace. He shows her around, his voice filled with a passion he rarely reveals. He points out the fields he's tilled, the fences he's mended, the plans he has for a real home. "The spring is supposed to be here," he says, pointing to a rocky outcrop near a stand of gnarled juniper trees. "My father said it was a family secret, that it was the lifeblood of the ranch, but no one has seen it in years." They spend the next few days searching, their hopes rising and falling with every rock they turn over. The work is hard, the sun is relentless, but they work together, a team. Eleanor finds a sense of purpose in the physical labor, a freedom from the cage of redemption. On the third day, as Silas is about to give up, Eleanor notices a subtle difference in the plant life near the rocks. A small patch of moss, greener than any other plant in the area, clinging to the side of a boulder. "Look, Silas," she says, her voice full of excitement. "The moss, it's a different color. It's thriving." Silas rushes over and begins to clear the dirt and brush around the boulder. After an hour of digging, he hits a layer of hard-pan clay. He digs deeper, and finally, a small trickle of water, clear and cold, begins to seep through the earth. He and Eleanor watch, a silent, shared triumph on their faces as the trickle becomes a steady stream. The spring is real. Silas lets out a whoop of triumph, his voice echoing across the plains. He pulls Eleanor into a tight hug, a spontaneous gesture that feels completely natural. "We did it, Eleanor. We did it." Eleanor, her face pressed against his chest, feels a surge of emotion. She's not just a captive anymore. She's a partner, a part of this dream. She's home. Their victory is short-lived. That same day, a group of riders appears on the horizon, their dust cloud rising like a storm. It's Finch and his men. He dismounts, his face contorted in a sneer. "Well, well," Finch says, his eyes landing on the spring. "Found a little secret, have we, Grant? Don't matter. The deadline is tomorrow. The land is mine. The law is on my side." Silas steps forward, placing a protective hand on Eleanor's shoulder. "The law protects a man with a valuable claim, Finch. This spring changes everything. This ranch is worth 10 times what it was. A judge will see that." Finch laughs, a cold, humorless sound. "A judge will see what I pay him to see. Besides, your little friend here, she's a commodity, Silas. You think a judge will believe a word a woman from a saloon says. You've already made your bargain with the devil. Your word is worthless." Eleanor steps forward, her chin held high. "My name is Eleanor Vance, and I am a free woman. I was a school teacher. I was a victim of a scoundrel who took my money. Mr. Grant paid for my release from a terrible situation. He protected me, and he's a man of honor. His word is his bond." Finch's eyes narrow, his composure finally cracking. He orders his men to grab her. Silas draws his revolver, a look of murderous intent on his face. "Touch her," he growls, "and you'll be the first thing I bury on this land." A tense standoff ensues. Silas is outnumbered, but he's a man fighting for his life and the woman he's come to love. Just as the standoff is about to explode, a lone rider appears, galloping toward them. It's the town sheriff, a man of quiet integrity who has long resented Finch's hold on the town. Jed, the saloon owner, tired of being Finch's pawn, has sent a runner to the sheriff with a sworn statement. Jed's statement, confirmed by the bank's ledger, reveals Finch's scheme. Finch had arranged the fraudulent land deal, preying on Silas's desperation. The debt was a sham, a false claim to force Silas into a situation where he would have to sell his ranch. Jed's deal was the final, cruel part of the plan, to make sure Silas's reputation was ruined so no one would believe him. But Jed had a conscience after all, and the sight of Silas and Eleanor together had pricked it. The sheriff, with the evidence in hand, orders Finch to stand down. "Alistair Finch, you're under arrest for fraud and conspiracy." Finch is furious but powerless. He and his men are disarmed and taken into custody. The land is safe. The spring is Silas's, and Eleanor is free. As the dust settles, Silas and Eleanor stand together hand in hand. The sun is beginning to set, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple. The ranch, once a symbol of his desperation, is now a beacon of hope, a testament to his courage and her resilience. "It's over," Silas says, his voice filled with relief. "It's all over." "Not all of it," Eleanor says, turning to face him. Her green eyes are soft, filled with a love that has grown in the most unexpected of places. "What about us, Silas?" Silas looks at her, the woman he paid for in desperation, who taught him what love truly was. He remembers the cold, calculated bargain he made, and the profound, humbling lesson she gave him in return. He wasn't paying for her body. He was paying for a lesson in humanity and a chance to find a different kind of life. He takes her face in his hands, his thumbs gently caressing her cheeks. "I didn't think I had a right to a dream like this," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "I came to redemption to save my land. I never thought I'd find home. My home is wherever you are, Eleanor." "And mine is here," she replies, her voice a whispered promise. "With you, on this land." The final scene is a simple one. Silas and Eleanor, standing together on the porch of the ranch house, watching the stars appear in the vast, darkening sky. The past is behind them, a difficult lesson learned. The future is uncertain, but it's a future they will build together. They are not a cowboy and a woman he bought. They are Silas and Eleanor, a man and a woman who found love in the most desolate of places, proving that even in the dustiest corners of the world, a desperate bargain can lead to a beautiful, unexpected salvation.